Welcome back to a very special episode of Between the Scene podcast. My name is Peter, and I'm joined by the man, the myth, the legend, Bodhi Maxfield.
Hello. So today we're going to be talking about my favorite movie, just absolutely my favorite movie, Frankenstein, the 1931 version directed by James Whale and starring Colin Clive as Dr. Frankenstein and Boris Karloff as the monster or Frankenstein, which we're probably going to talk about that some a
Yep.
bit.
Yep.
It- and I feel like everyone knows this story, but just reiterate, it's about a doctor who wants to create life himself instead of letting it go up to God and basic biology.
Right.
And he creates a monster, thinking that's going to be like the brain of a like regular person, but instead it's a criminal brain, and
Right.
things happen.
Right. So if you haven't already, before we get started, leave a like, leave a comment. We really do want you to comment on what you want us to do next, just so we get an idea of what y'all are looking for. Subscribe or hit that follow button. If you're on Spotify, please download the audio. It really helps us out. And without further ado, let's get into it. So, Bodhi, I know you've seen this movie many times. And
Many times.
what are your first thoughts?
So, the first time I saw it was with my uncle, who introduced me to like all the Universal Monster movies when I was in elementary school. I don't know what grade. I
Uh-huh.
just know it was a long time ago, so it's always been a part of like my movie history and like how I perceive movies and stuff.
Right.
And it's one of the ones that made me want to start working in movies too.
Okay. Okay.
So I just have a deep love for
Yeah,
for
yeah.
it. But for the movie itself, I think it's interesting how it's like you could argue it doesn't hold up in some ways, but I think it still does hold up, especially because of the acting and the makeup
Yep.
done by
Yep.
Jack Pierce, who did, I think, all of not all, but most of the Universal Monster ones. Like he did it obviously for this. He
Yeah.
did it for Wolfman. I don't think he did anything for Dracula because there wasn't really anything to do for
Uh-huh.
Dracula. But it's just like such a monumental, because everyone, even if you haven't seen the movie, you're like, if you see this shirt,
Yeah,
you know who it
exactly.
is.
Yeah, it's iconic. It's iconic.
Yeah,
Um yeah, and Pierce brought a lot of like the reason why the movie's so iconic is because if you were to read the Frankenstein book that this movie was adapted from, Frankenstein wasn't supposed to have the metal in the neck. He wasn't supposed to have
or
the
the
flat
flat. Yeah,
head. Yeah. So,
yeah. He's always like long black hairs normally. How he's
right,
depicted in like more accurate book versions.
right. And Pierce really made him an icon, like iconic figure by his makeup and the design of this monster. Um so going into the film, it really it starts out with a funeral scene, and it just gets right into the point that there are some grave
Yep.
robbers who want to dig up the body, and they find that to be useless. So then they go to uh this one guy who's hanging uh the in the gallows. They try to cut him free, and they break his neck, so that's no good. And then over time they eventually find a scientist who is actually the doctor in would you call him a professor, right? In
Yeah, I
the
think the professor in Van Helsing, and then he's also in the Mummy too. They just anytime they needed like a, and he it's so funny because he's probably in nearly as many as like Boris Karloff, because he's also in like Daughter of Dracula too.
we're talking about Edward Sloan, right? Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Anytime they need like a doctor figure, he's always like their
He's the
go-to
one.
guy.
Yeah. So they arrive. Well, Fritz, Frankenstein's little companion, he's a hunchback, and sometimes he just gets in the way of things. But he
He's the problem.
He's the problem. So what happens is Fritz is on an assignment to retrieve a human brain, and he arrives at Dr. Walden's classroom, which has a bunch of students in it, and they're discussing the brains of a good, normal civil human being, and then the brains of a criminal.
An abnormal brain.
An abnormal brain, yeah. So Fritz goes in, he sneaks in after class is dismissed, and first picks up the brain that he's supposed to pick up. He stumbles and drops it like a klutz. And then he picks up the brain, the abnormal brain, the criminal brain, and brings that back to Herr Frankenstein. And what happens from there is the story has also a love story built into it. So Frankenstein is engaged at that point. He's engaged, right? He's engaged to this lady whose name is Elizabeth, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Played by Mae Clark.
Yeah, Mae Clark.
Who was awesome. She's not talked about enough.
No, she's beautiful too.
Yeah.
She could be on a lot of movies, a lot of screens at that time. I would assume she has been, but so intertwined between the monster storyline and the love story, we have Frankenstein trying to create his own life. He's trying to play God, and when he's about to, I guess, unleash his power and create this monster, create life in this dead corpse, his fiance, with the help of
Victor is his friend
Victor and best friend eventually, best man. So Victor, and then they also bring along Dr. Walden, and they somewhat interrupt his experiment. And eventually, when the storm hits just right overhead, Herr Frankenstein raises up the dead corpse through the ceiling and allows it to be electrocuted multiple times. Bringing it down, he discovers that his experiment was a success, and he pretty much did create life.
It's alive.
It's alive. Yeah, the famous quote, "It's alive."
Do you know the whole story with that scene?
No.
With now I know what what's like to be God, but they got the censors got so mad, so they replaced lightning with that, so it blocked out what he said.
Oh yeah.
But in every modern version, they restored that. Because I love that, because that's what it's about, because it's a man who wants to be God, and then all the problems that happen because of it, which are more so in the book than in the movie, but still there are bad things that happen because of it.
So in the original film, it was taken out. Now I know what it feels like to be God.
Yeah, because the Hays Code. I think it was the Hays Code. I'm not sure if it was established yet, but I just know censors did not like the fact, especially because he was kind of the good guy in the movie. Debatable,
sure,
with that, but they did not like the fact he said that he's God. Which is the whole point of the book.
It was 1931.
Yeah.
So going from there, Frankenstein realizes that he made a crucial mistake making this monster, as it has killed Fritz and has attacked him and Dr. Walden. So as he's healing from his wounds, which honestly I don't understand how he could have gotten hurt from his little scrapple with the monster, but
I think it was I think it was kind of like fatigue, sort of.
Yeah, okay.
Fatigue. At that time, how people, I'm fairly certain, fainting chairs were still a thing at that time.
Yeah.
I think that was their justification for a nondescript issue.
So as he's healing, he realizes that his whole life is not about his science experiments anymore. It is about Elizabeth, and they're on their way to get married. And this at this point, Frankenstein has actually escaped the. Would you call it a castle?
Yeah, I think they call it like a watchtower or a tower.
Watchtower. Watchtower. Yeah. And wreaks havoc across the countryside. And doing during that, he killed one of the villagers' daughter. Do you remember her
Oh,
name? Was it
Maria.
Maria?
Maria.
Maria.
R.I.P. Maria.
Yeah.
And
She
that was another thing censored too.
was it
Yeah,
the whole
and
scene?
so not the whole scene is so I think I'm trying to remember. I'm fairly certain they just cut it like before he threw her in, and
Okay.
then later we see Maria's dad carrying the body, which is worse. So
Yeah.
I think it's funny that that was the part they chose to censor
Yeah. Yeah.
because it was
Yeah.
basically just like throwing a kid in a pool,
Right.
and yeah,
um. After and you know what's weird is I didn't to my memory I don't remember seeing a scene where the father finds the body. He just ends up
yeah, he
walking.
doesn't. Yeah, they. I don't think they've ever filmed that, or if they
Yeah.
did, it's now completely lost. But yeah, it's just which that's a good scene. Yeah, which is weird to say, but you know what I mean. With him carrying it through the and just like
Oh
bit by
yeah.
bit, like every section of the party just stops,
Yeah,
and then kind of
stands
like
up
that's
and
not all at the same time. I think it's kind of more powerful because it's like people are just so into the party, and then the
yeah.
realization just happens like a wave.
Yeah. 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 So yeah, going back onto the whole storyline, people realize that there's a monster on the loose. There's a murderer on the loose is what they say. They go to the wedding party and somehow they connect the wedding party, Frankenstein and the monster to be
I'm still a
all
little confused by that,
right,
even after
right.
watching it many times. But I'm like, they need to just get the story going.
Show don't tell, show don't tell.
Yeah,
Um so they realize that Frankenstein must be killed and it goes from there to be a huge hunt scene ending with Frankenstein and the monster trapped up in a wind tur-
windmill.
uh
Yeah,
windmill, and Frankenstein is thrown off of the windmill tower, and Frankenstein's monster is trapped up there. They light it on fire, and they kill the monster. Very simple story. Um, it I don't know. It to me it's still a classic because it
absolutely.
really to me for something to be a classic it has to be remembered for easily 50 years plus. Like
And it's
everyone knows
nearly a
Frankenstein.
hundred.
Nearly 100.
Yeah.
1931 he got 10 more years or
Yep.
less than 10 years. Um it it's a black and white movie, you know, it's got old school techniques. The audio is for most part pretty good. They had pretty good sound effects. Um I what I like a lot about the cinematography is the use of shadows. In this film,
Yes.
the use of shadows was really prominent and they really tell a story by creating like this almost like two-face for Frankenstein with shadows showing like his dark side almost and
Mhm.
um Frankenstein's shadow when he's in the cellar is like huge and monstrous and big and um I think they did a really good job shooting this film. Storytelling wise, they have quite a few continent or um continuity errors. Wow, for some reason I was stumbling on that word. They have a few continuity errors, and um some of the plot is a little I would say lost and up to debate or interpretation. Like the whole uh village coming together to know that there's a monster when nothing was said
Yeah,
about it. But uh
because
sorry, go ahead.
well, because he kills Doctor Voltman, but they don't bring that up.
Right.
So I wish there was like a scene of maybe Victor going back to check on him or something, like
Right.
while his friend's getting ready for the wedding or something. So like that, I think that's like my one complaint with it is just it's so fast with
Yeah,
it because compared to like the Wolfman, like the sort of mob scene, it's not really a mob
yeah,
scene in comparison, but
yeah.
like that one makes more sense because they know about the monster and stuff. But
Right.
still,
You know,
yeah, yeah, it's
it's
whatever.
a movie. It's a movie. Quote to quote, it's a movie. So you can kind of forgive these things. I really do enjoy that scene that you were talking about with the dot or with the father carrying Maria, and you can see the people in the backgrounds, their faces, they're having a good time, they're laughing, they're talking, and then like as they see the body, they're like, oh snap! They stand up, they start following him to see what's going on. Uh, that's probably my favorite scene in the movie as well. Or I don't know if that's your favorite scene,
It,
but for me it was.
well, actually, I'm going to go on a long tangent about my favorite scene, but
Sure.
I feel like for how because Dracula came out first, for like how old I guess or new, however you see it, the movie is. It's impressive how many because they did like they zoomed in, they had shots on rails, and like
Yep.
that scene was a tracking scene of him,
Yep.
and like in Dracula, it's a lot of just still
Yep. Yep.
shots. Like there's not a lot of camera. The funny thing, actually, this is another random thing. So for Dracula, they were filming both the English and a Spanish version at the same time.
Oh.
So like during the day it was the English version. During the night they filmed the Spanish version for
Okay.
Mexico and Spanish speaking. And in that version they do a lot more camera work, which
Really?
I think that camera work affected like influenced James Whale for this because
Okay.
there's a lot of similarities with it.
Gotcha. Gotcha. Um. James Will did what other Universal monsters did he do? Or was
Uh,
this?
I think I don't. Crap, now I feel bad because I don't think he did the Mummy. I'm fairly certain he did more of the Frankenstein ones.
Yeah.
No, I just got looked
No,
up on
you're good.
IMDb.
Yeah.
But yeah, this is the one he's most well known for.
Sure. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. And I'd say for good reason. Like this movie was pretty like overall really good.
Mm,
One thing I would change is the set that they used for the hunting scene. I felt
mm,
like a lot of the shots were reused. Like a lot of the parts of the location were reused for
yeah,
other shots. So I would have liked to see like, and I can't tell because I wasn't there on the set to see how it was built or how the lighting was affixed, but I would have liked to see different angles because you as at least for me as I'm watching, I can tell that they every single shot that they shot there was shot the same direction.
yeah,
Um, so I would have liked to see different angles during that because I could easily tell that they were reshooting the same locations. Like when can't remember the character's name, but when he was found injured during the hunt, later during the hunt they re-show that same spot where he should have
mm,
been laying and injured. Like not even like two sequences away. Like it was like almost the next shot that they used where they had the same location. But I'm rambling. It just bothered me.
yeah. I get it. No, I get it.
Another thing that I guess it didn't really bother me, but another thing I really picked up on was during the whole scene where Frankenstein is being electrocuted and being brought to life. There was a lot of dialogue I couldn't hear.
Mm,
And that was something I guess it worked because that scene was really supposed to show like chaos and show like this whole unworldly like situation that they're really taking science too far. So
yeah.
that was something I picked up on. I don't know if I liked it or not, but that's something that stood out. What stood out to you during this film? Like what really sticks in your mind when watching this?
So my just like the first scene I always think of is the introduction of the monster. And
Uh huh.
I love that how they started it by framing it that you see his shoulder, not shoulder, his back first, and then he turns to the
Yeah.
screen,
Yeah.
just to give you that even that much more anticipation. And then the close up on his face and just the
Yeah.
dead stare from Boris
Right.
Karloff, who's an awesome actor. I love everything Boris Karloff has been in. But my favorite part in that scene is after Dr. Frankenstein tells him to sit down, and then he like opens the sunroof, I guess, and he sees the sun. So just that whole scene, but especially when he like first looks up at the sun. I actually have it tattooed.
Oh yeah.
Of that shot, yeah, because it's just with like what you're talking about with the shadows. I think it's just beautifully done. How that's like the only time there's like true light on his face to
Yeah.
kind of show like an innocence, and the fact he was trying to grab the sun because he
Right.
doesn't understand what it was. He just it was a light and he went to touch it, and I think that's an interesting because it was like that, and the flower scene when he throws Maria, the beginning of that just shows like his innocence, and I think that's what I really like about the movie is that
Yeah.
he's probably like the most innocent monster of Universal because he truly is like he didn't ask to be made and have like
Right.
a criminal brain put in him, and
Right.
I also wonder like truly how different it would be if he had a normal brain because he would still be a stitched together giant man, you know,
Right.
with bolts in his neck. Like no matter what brain you put in, like people would still see him like that. And through, I think, because really the only time I would say he's like remotely malicious is against Dr. Waldman, who wanted to destroy him, and
Yep.
Dr. Frankenstein, who also wanted to destroy him.
And Fritz, he hung him.
Fritz had it coming. It's because he was the dude who was like whipping him and like shoving fire in his face and stuff, and
Yeah.
they're like, "Oh, he has to be destroyed." I'm like, "That's self-defense." And if a regular person killed him, everyone would be okay with it. I do
Right.
love that shot too. How we don't get a close up on Fritz; we just see his hanging body.
Right.
That
Right.
was a cool shot too, because because they didn't really stay on it. Like it was more of like a passing thing, and that somehow made it like creepier to me.
Right. Right.
I also like there's a lot of things I think is kind of funny with Fritz or interesting is one, he's played by Dwight Fry, who also was Renfield, so he just likes being a servant due to monsters. And
Yeah.
I also think it's funny that people think like if they don't see the movie, they probably would call him Igor. You know? Have you seen the other ones?
Yeah. The
Like Bride
Frankenstein.
Frankenstein?
No.
And so in I'm getting them all mixed up now, but in one of the later ones, there is a character named Igor, played by not Boris Karloff, Bela Lugosi, and
Uh-huh.
he does have a humpback, but he is outright the villain in it. He's not like just this subservient guy who wants to like help the master and stuff. Like he
Right.
has his own goals, and he does a great job with it too. It's funny how, and it makes sense to why people would do it, but it's funny how they combine those two characters together.
Right. Right. You know what's funny though is what's really funny is that people think the monster is called Frankenstein.
See, like I don't care with that because, like, if you're talking about all the Universal monsters and you say Dracula, Wolfman, Gillman for Creature of Black Lagoon, Invisible Man, the monster,
Yeah. Sure.
you wouldn't know what that means unless that's what like it's Frankenstein. I don't
Right.
care.
Right. Sure. Sure. That's fair. What do you think about the moment where Dr. Dr. Frankenstein breaks the third wall or fourth wall, whatever the term is, where he looks at the camera. Fourth wall, yeah. He looks at the camera and he's like, "Don't worry, he's just sleeping." In the beginning, where they grave rob the.
See, I don't know if like it was purposely fourth wall or just early on they didn't fully like not understand, but like do film dialogue in that way.
Uh-huh.
You know, because well, I guess they kind of purposely did that with Great Train Robbery. Did you ever see that, the Thomas Edison?
Yeah.
So at the end, like at the way end, there's a cowboy who looks straight at the screen and shoots the audience and stuff.
Uh-huh.
So that's like purposely breaking fourth wall. But
Yeah.
I didn't really think anything with that. But
Yeah.
I I think I kind of liked that, and I liked a lot of the other scenes with the close up of Colin Clive's face, because even with being not deadpan, but like relatively straight face, you could still feel like an intensity with his acting. Like the
Yeah,
part when they first entered the Watchtower, and Victor calls him crazy or insane, one of those
crazy am
many.
I?
Crazy, yeah, and then also the scene where he's about to do the experiment, and they kind of do the close up on him, and he's like, "One man crazy, three very sane people," and then
Yeah,
completely forgets about Fritz, which I think is funny every single
yeah,
time I watch it, because Fritz is literally right there by the three sane people, and
yeah.
he's just chilling.
It's the one crazy man and three sane people, and then there's Fritz.
He's just like, "What about me, dude?"
um, During the scene where Frankenstein's father is first shown, did you notice that they broke the 180 rule?
Yeah,
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 yeah. It threw me off, but I mean back then I doubt they I don't know if
yeah.
they had that established or not.
Because it's still early cinema. They're working on everything,
Right.
which I think that's another reason why I like the Universal monster movies, all of them,
Uh-huh.
because I can see how further movies have been either improved or influenced by
Right.
it. Because like all the serial killers from the '80s, like Jason, Michael, those are basically like that generation's Universal monsters, with all of
Yeah.
them having sequels and all the lore and stuff, and sometimes fighting each other.
Yeah. What I like about older movies is they have a tendency to when they're searching for something just throw furniture around.
I mean, what else are you gonna do? Because
it,
if it's time to the chair, get rid of the chair.
it, re- it reminds me of this one time I made a short film with my buddy, and it was when I first got a camera and I was like 16 years old. And there was a scene where he had to go searching for a gun. Um, because I was like a mercenary trying to hunt him down or something,
Hmm.
and he had to search for a gun, and it was just the two of us, so I was recording him, he would be recording me, and during the scene where he was searching for his gun, I'm like, all right, for this, I want you to be really dramatic. I want you to shove all the papers off the desk. I want you to like throw things, the books off the walls, like all this stuff. And I was like, looking back at it, I'm like, if he has a gun, he'd probably know where the gun would be. Like I was like, it's so
Sometimes
dramatic,
adrenaline, and also I think people always just are looking for an excuse to swipe
right?
everything off a table. Because who
Right?
doesn't want to do that? Like
Yeah,
once in their life.
yeah, yeah. It was fun, you know. I'm unfortunately I deleted it when I started film school because I didn't want anyone to know the terrible atrocities I committed as
I
a filmmaker.
I get that. I have all of my stuff on one like hard drive, and
Uh
no one outside of my classes, no one will see those.
huh.
Which
Yeah.
I feel bad because all the people did such good jobs in it. I just hate my directing with it.
Right. Right. Yeah. Um. So. Um. What do you think? What do you think was the importance of the scene where Frankenstein was with Maria?
Oh wait, do you mean when you say
Or
Frankenstein? Do you,
I'm sorry, the monster. The monster.
yeah,
See,
okay.
I
See, I was
did
gonna
it. I
say,
did it. I did.
I think they did that scene partly to give May Clark the scream, because you gotta have a scream in a
Yeah.
monster movie.
Yeah.
But I think it's also kind of to show the audience that, like, what I was opposite of what I was saying before, that he's not entirely innocent.
Yeah.
To kind of be more like primal, and maybe either showing like he's kind of hinting at how in the book, and I think the play version, he does kill her.
Uh-huh.
But so I think it's kind of to hint at that and to give us some terrors, because we need it. We need a few scares, and
Right.
like the audience at that time definitely would have been scared of a undead man coming into an innocent woman's room.
Right. Right.
Yeah, I do think
Yeah.
the rar thing was kind of funny though.
Arrgh.
Like,
Yeah, that sound is iconic, dude.
yeah,
It,
yeah. Poor man, Boris Karloff.
so
That's awesome. Did you know he took out because he had dentures, so he like took them out for this. That's why his
did
cheeks are so sunken in. Yeah, because he.
really?
At least that's what I've heard. If that's actually just a rumor, I'm sure someone
Huh.
in the comments will just yell at me. be like, no, that's
Right.
not actually true.
Right.
But that's what I've always heard is that he had dentures and he took them out, and that's why his face is so sunken in. And
Interesting.
because oh man, I just love this movie because that's another thing with because obviously a huge amount of it is Jack Pierce, just
Uh-huh.
fantastic makeup, but he also had a perfect canvas to use
Yeah.
it on too.
Right.
And I don't and like with Lon Chaney with the Wolfman, he didn't have he had like a different challenge because he had to cover his face, but at the same time he didn't
Right.
have to like encapsulate his cheekbones and like his forehead and so like enlarge his forehead. But
Yeah.
both him and Colin Clive, like they both just did such good jobs in this movie.
Yeah. Yeah. What's your favorite besides Frankenstein? What's your other favorite Universal monster movie?
Hmm.
Would you say Dracula, The Mummy?
Okay, so I love all of them, but I do think I'm still annoyed by the end of Dracula because it's such a lame ass like
You're
lame
good.
ending to Dracula because he's killed off screen, and all you hear is like a sound from him. Really,
Yeah.
like the
Yeah.
Prince of Darkness, and that's how you kill him. So, but still, Bela Lugosi did an amazing job as Dracula, and both he and Boris Karloff have
Yeah.
influenced like their characters for to this day. Like anytime you think of Dracula or Frankenstein, you think of the. But my other favorite would be probably Wolfman. And it's kind of for
Okay.
the same reason as with I do love the Mummy too, though, but because both of them, both like the monsters in it, can kind of be seen as like innocent or misunderstood because like Lawrence Talbot doesn't want to be a Wolfman and kill people, and
Right.
Frankenstein didn't, but Dracula 100% wanted to suck everyone's blood, and
Yeah.
like if you've ever seen The Invisible Man, the one with Claude Rains as him. The funny thing, he actually kills in The Invisible Man. He kills more people than any of the other Universal monsters
Really?
because he messes up a train. So like a few, I think in the movie they say like hundreds of. So he kills like hundreds of people, and he's the
Yeah.
most like human looking one. But probably Wolfman, I would say
Okay.
is because I think Wolfman was actually the first one I saw. Frankenstein was just like the most influential for me.
Sure. So I gotta ask you, since Frankenstein's your favorite, have you ever dressed up as a monster for Halloween before?
I did as a kid, I think
Yeah.
once.
Oh
I
yeah,
can't
yeah,
remember.
yeah. But
Yeah.
yeah.
See, I'm waiting to go all out when I can find a Bride of Frankenstein. Then couples costumes would be adorable.
Right.
Which that's
Right.
also a great movie too. I think he directed that too. I believe James Whale directed Bride of
Oh, did he?
Frankenstein.
Okay.
Yeah, there's a lot of. It's interesting too how many Frankenstein sequels there are compared to other ones because like Dracula, there's no sequels with Bela Lugosi as Dracula. Well,
Okay.
no, that's not true. Because there's Abbott and Costello, but no direct
Okay.
ones with him. But like there's House of Frankenstein, Ghost of Frankenstein, Son of Frankenstein, Bride of Frankenstein. I'm fairly certain that's all of them. There might be another one too, and that's kind of why I'm sort of combining them together in my head with Igor.
Yeah, yeah.
But that was definitely the most lasting one of them, and so many iconic things are from those two, like the Bride. You know.
Gotcha. Well, I don't want to keep you too much longer. I know you got plans for today, but
Uh,
thanks for being on the show, man.
yeah, thank
And
you for letting me talk about my favorite movie.
absolutely. If you haven't already, leave a like or subscribe. Hit that notification bell. Leave a comment of what you want us to do next. We are fans of all things cinema, of all ages, of all genres. And have a great Halloween and enjoy the spooky season. And we'll see you next week. Thank you again, Bodhi. I appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Alrighty, guys. Signing off.